I think
The
you'd be
whole
okay with that.
55 cents.
Maybe 0 cents.
We got a raise?
All
Just note everyone but Bart.
Okay. All right, are there any additions to the agenda? Not hearing any, I would entertain a motion for approval of the agenda.
Second that.
Next on the agenda, oh, all of those, I'm sorry, is there any conversation about that? If not, all those in favor, say aye.
I'm sorry, but no, for the record, I don't have COVID or leprosy or anything. I just sort of got pushed down here waiting for everybody else.
If you feel lonely, you can.
You can take my corner if you want.
All right, for the record, that was Gail who made the motion and Jim did the second. All right, I would now, unless there are any exclusions, I'd like to entertain a motion for the approval of the consent agenda.
I'll approve the consent agenda.
All right, Jim has moved to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded. All those in favor?
Right.
Any opposed?
And Lisa, I can see Bart here.
Oh, hi, Barb.
Bart is there. He's on mute, but I saw him. I can see him as a panelist here.
Easy there too. Make a note, Bart join.
Hey, sorry, I just figured out how to unmute myself. Yeah, I'm. So
All right, Bart, I'll go back, even though we already kind of approved the agenda and the consent agenda. Did you have any questions on either of those?
no, and I said I, but I was muted, so you didn't hear me on that either. So.
Thank you, Bart.
Bart voted.
All right, now we're moving on to the public participation. I don't have anybody that's signed up prior to the meeting. Is anybody here that would like to speak?
No, we have one.
All right, please state your name and.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Jim Toll, and I'm on the budget committee, and of course, I'm a taxpayer. And so I'm speaking to you tonight from both of those perspectives. I sent an email to all of you on the board yesterday. I hope you had a chance to look at it. I'm here tonight because I want to read the portion of the email in which I offer up 4 reasons why I think CPRD should not be involved in the Yam-Hills Trail. And just to be clear, I hope someday to walk the Yam-Hills Trail. I just don't believe that CPRD should be involved in it. So if I can, number 1, it's not the charter or mission of CPRD to develop the trail. The Yam-Hills Trail exists and extends 20 miles outside of our district. And it involves the cities of Carlton, Yamhill, Minville, and Gaston, but not Dundee or Newburgh. Our mission statement reads, quote, "The mission of Chehalis Park and Recreation District is to connect and enrich our community." It reads our community, not Yamhill community. Also, here's our budget folder. There are 15 strategic goals listed in our 2021-22 budget, and none of them read anything like Yam-Hills Trail. The budget does not include any line item specific to trail development, at least not that I recall, not when I looked through it again. There's nothing in there. To me, it's inappropriate for CPRD to expend resources, as we have been doing for months now, on behalf of the trail. And as a taxpayer, I resent that. I think it's completely wrong. 2, CPRD has enough to do already, and it has a sparse staff as it stands. We have wells to dig, bridges to build, a riverfront to develop, campgrounds underway, the Sanders Estate project, the Riley Estate project, and a world-class pickleball stadium, all under development right now. Just to name a few. There is plenty on our plate. Let's not add a super project totally outside of our district and pretend that it can be handled separately without diluting resources away from our true constituents, which I am one of. Number 3. Okay, this is a little personal opinion, but I believe that we are being manipulated by powerful Yamhill County politicians and businesses, and that this is just the start. We are the backup plans, in my opinion, for the Friends of the Trail as a result of the failed Birchhour recall. The Friends of the Trail and all the interested parties need to get back to their own negotiating table and make this happen themselves. I'm sure if our superintendent can make it happen, and I think he will, they too can make it happen. And as I said in my letter, let them find their own miracle worker. He's our miracle worker. He's made things happen in the past. He can make this happen for sure. They need to make it happen for themselves. So let them get their own Don Clements. And the 4, and lastly, I really, really believe this. CPRD will never be the same, ever, if we continue our involvement with the Ellis Trail. We will be sucked into a highly political battle that involves powerful business interests, county and state politics, and this will hurt our Newburgh and Dundee communities. Right now, the camel's nose is under the tent. Please stop this now before we end up with a whole camel in the tent. And I just think it's fundamentally wrong for us to be doing this. But I want to get back to what I said earlier. I hope someday to walk the Ellis Trail. And I hope that all the principles, which don't involve any of us right now, or shouldn't at least, I hope they get back to the negotiating table and make it happen so I can walk that trail. But please, let's not us dilute who we are with the Ellis Trail. And I urge you to bring this back up and vote it down and get on with our district business. Thanks a lot.
Yes.
Oh, Jim, I'll just say that pretty upfront that I'm awfully ambivalent about this, the idea of doing this project. I probably agree with 80 to 85% of what you just said. But I wouldn't know if we haven't spent any money on this other than maybe, if you want to count some staff time needs. The survey was paid for by no, so we haven't expended money.
I understand.
We have spent some staff time.
Yes, and staff time is money time. And I'll tell you, these days, your staff is slim. And every minute counts. And with projects like the riverfront and the Sanders Estate, if he's spending time talking to ODOT people or county people or other people, it's not much compared to our whole budget, but it's money that taxpayers in this district are using to pay his salary, and it's just inappropriate. And thank you for that, and thank you for the opportunity to actually have a little bit of a dialogue on that. I know in other meetings we can't do that, and I appreciate that. And I know that the Ellis Trail folks gave us, I think it was $15,000 to conduct that poll, so it wasn't money at all.
Anybody else have any questions, Mr. Tall?
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
How is pool going at the senior center?
So kind of you to remember. Well, whenever COVID allows us, we play.
Good.
And we have 8 or 10 enthusiastic players. And we really appreciate those pool tables. In fact, it's a frequently mentioned comment there. It's like, wow, these tables are so nice. And I at least there in the hero of that group. But I tell them, I remind them, you know what? It was CPRD and we were so grateful for it. So thank you. Yeah, those are sweet tables. And we have a tournament coming up, another one soon. And right now it's tied. There are 3 people in tied for the tournament, and they are competitive.
Okay.
I am the weakest player.
Great.
Thank you.
Bart, do you have any questions?
No, no questions. Thanks for asking though.
Right.
So Kayla, is this promoted as cool at the pool?
Sure.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tall. Appreciate that. Is there anybody else here that would like to speak? All right, please. Please state your name.
Okay, if I take my mask off.
Yes.
Okay, my name is Ed Fredenberg. I retired and moved here 11 years ago. Live close to the grandkids. Strong believer in outdoor activities, recreation. Not a member of any powerful political force. And I haven't made any prepared statements, but I just want to say that I'm in favor of the trail. I think if the CPRD board views this as being something within its realm of authority, that they should proceed with it. Especially in view of the fact that I guess the county commissioners have at this late stage abandoned the project, and I'm fearful that the impact on taxpayers to refund State Department of Transportation for work already done. As a minimum, I think that the board should fund the, I guess it's called a feasibility study or a planning study or something to get more information to be able to address the issues that have popped up surrounding this. So that's all I really want to say.
Thank you, Mr. Fredenberg. Does anybody have questions for Mr. Fredenberg?
So you said you live in the district, in the Chehalis Park and Recreation District?
Yes.
Bart, do you have any questions?
No, but I appreciate the testimony. Thank you.
Righty. No.
No.
Alrighty. All right, then, thank you both. And we will move on to our next agenda item, which are action items. The first on that is the budget calendar approval and approval of the budget officer for 2022. Ron?
Please note 13A and 14A, I gave it to you. There was just a few errors on the 13 and 14 that was in your packet. It wasn't anything major, but wanted you aware of that so that you could see that. Other than that, it'll probably be the, I'm recommending that you make Casey the budget officer rather than myself. I'll work with Casey. If you remember in the past, we made Jim.
No, I never had the honor, darn it. I'm so upset.
Was it Mark?
It was
Mark, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I couldn't remember, but anyway.
Casey, I'm sure will enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a rule against the board member being the budget officer.
There's not a rule.
I manipulate that budget. You wouldn't want me.
All right. I suppose we can go ahead and so it appears we need to approve two things. Then we need to approve the calendar. And just sort of, we are all members of the budget committee. And so these are dates that are going to affect all of us.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the budget calendar as presented and that we approve Casey as the budget officer in one fell swoop.
I'll second that motion.
Is there any questions or comments? All right, then all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. I would like to say, Dawn, that I would appreciate in the consideration in Casey as well, we're going to have a 5.9% COLA as of January 1st, and that's your cost of living, which is inflation, right? And I know that over the last 20 years or so, most people have lost a little bit of buying power in their wages because inflation has definitely gone up more than wages have. And I am really hopeful that we are going to be looking at making sure that we try to keep people at least an even keel. So if we can do a COLA across the board for everybody, I think that would be a very good thing to consider. Thank you. Right, reports and comments from the board. I will start with Madam He's on the phone and all by himself over there. Do you have anything?
I agree with your most previous recent statement about the COLA. I would support that, just for the record. The only other thing that I have to report is strictly personal. Anna and I are going to be grandparents again in March.
Woo!
Granddaughter.
Hopefully, no baby duck, right?
That's all we got. We don't allow it.
Or babysitting time for Dawn.
Gail, do you have anything?
No, no grandbabies, no.
Okay. That's probably good right now, right?
You're gonna have about 50 though at some point.
Jim?
Yeah, dude, I was hoping that we could, under old business, they've got a Pickleball Advisory Committee report. I was wondering if it would be appropriate to make sure that we put the trail advisory report down there, because they're meeting monthly also. I don't know if you want to do that, or I could do it underneath, just the report from the board members, so whatever way you see fit. Since you got the pickleball, I figured the trail committee was developed too. And Bart, I can give a rundown on what happened at that meeting, or you can, whichever you prefer.
Yeah, why don't you go, Jim, and then I'll add anything if I feel like you miss anything, but go ahead.
Well, there's a lot of interest in trails, district-wide, county-wide even. One of the folks that we thought we were going to have at the meeting was Paul Agramus, who is basically doing the planning for the Dundee bypass trail. But he couldn't make it, but I know that the committee is looking forward to hearing from him. And he's supposed to come in and give a presentation on the Dundee bypass trail development in January to the committee. There were, 12-ish people there, and then there were some people online. They're still working to become organized. It's a good group of very talented folks that work in trails, throughout Oregon. They just happen to live here in our district, which is great. People that work up in the gorge on trails and so on. So we have a lot of experience, which is really good to hear. The gal that, I'm sorry, I misplaced her name, that is supposed to be committee chair. She had a death in the family, couldn't be the chair.
I think that's Jill Bilko.
Right, so it's been a little bit, not as organized as people would like, but people are heading towards that organization. So I know that Ken Wright gave a overview of the Yamhill Trail to the committee, and they were happy to hear that, get the information from him. But it was more, the committee was interested in the Dundee bypass trail, and also a possible trail up Chehalem Mountain in our district, and then another trail in the wine country out of Dundee in our district. So that was talked about quite a bit. So one of the things that they would like the district to do is get an inventory of our current trails that are within our district and find out what kind of shape they're in and what kind of work they need. So I don't know if that's something the board wants to, the staff wants to do, or the committee, but I think that if the staff could kind of give us an idea of that, that'd be great. And then they'll know what kind of maintenance they need to do on what we have already before we go out and do something on something that's going to be new. So anyway, that was about it. A lot of ideas out there, a lot of interest in getting out in nature and hiking and biking, within our district. So that's kind of the gist of that. Any questions from me?
Yeah, I was just wondering, because I think that there's a lot of trail stuff that we're doing within the district. And then there's the Yamhill West Side Trail. And currently that committee kind of is taking care of all trail related items, right? Do you have subcommittees on there of it?
Again, it's an organizational thing. They've only met like twice.
Okay.
And I think they're still trying to get organized. So I have a feeling this next meeting will be more organizational because everybody will be there. So
It seems like it might be a good idea to have subcategories in that. So, because I think there's different things facing the overall trail thing is awesome. But then there's different challenges. The stuff that's inside of our district seems to be things that we it's not gonna be the same conversation as the one with it,
Yeah, and to tell you the truth, it's like Bart and I kind of stood back and we're trying to let the committee to do their work. So it's kind of in their, because we've talked about the same thing in their bailiwick right now, what they're doing, so I haven't stepped in and led anything, Bart hasn't stepped in anything, but Pete Sedaris has taken some leadership role in the last meeting. And we'll see how it goes, but I know that there's a lot of folks that want to get out there and walk and hike in our district. So. Bart, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, if you don't mind, maybe I can do my board comments now, and I will start with the trail. Yeah, I think they're planning on doing some subcommittees, and the subcommittees will probably be on individual trails that they're interested in working on, as well as a fundraising subcommittee and a maintenance subcommittee. They haven't fully decided what they would do, but they would be, and I think multiple people will sign up for multiple subcommittees, and they don't want to get too spread out, but it's still, like Jim said, in the organizational stages. And I think the Jill Bilka's death in the family kind of set them back a little bit. They're really hoping to have an agenda when they come in next time, and I believe that it's just going to take another meeting or so to really get organized. But like Jim said, we got a really talented group and pretty excited about, they seem to be really excited about the prospects. The one thing that I sensed from the group is I think the second meeting that I missed, the group sensed that there was some pressure on them to work on the phase 2 and phase 3 of the bypass trail. And they sounded like, not opposed to doing that, but there was a lot of other stuff that they wanted to do, and they just didn't want to have the main focus be just the bypass trail. And then in other comments, I'd like to thank Casey and the crew. Michelle and I went out and walked Young Trail this weekend, and all the leaves were blown off, and he's got that shredded bark down over the gravel, and there's like 1 or 2 small muddy spots on the full trail, and it's easy to walk around those. And we usually bring a spare pair of shoes when we go out in the rainy months and change before we get back in the car, and that wasn't necessary. The trail's in really amazing condition, and I'm looking forward to getting out and seeing the other trails. And I know the top of Shod trails typically gets really muddy when it's wet, so I'm interested to see that condition. But Casey, I really appreciate the work your crew has done. So, and then on top of that, Lisa, I also agree that really the district, we have resources and we got people, and it's the people that really make our district, and they don't make a lot of money, but I think they should be able to. I don't want to lose some of our, especially the long-term people that have been with us, and as there's more pressure now, it's a job seekers market. So I think we need to stay competitive, and we need to be fair to the employees. So I appreciate your comments on the COLA. That's it for me.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Bart. I really want to thank basically the whole park staff worked on trails at one point or another this year. Brian and Russ, and that's our kind of experiment at Ewing, is to see where we need to put drainage in and what kind of options we have for keeping that trail so it's usable all year. Because it is definitely 3,000% improved over any time it rained before that.
Right. It's a big improvement. I mean, it's a really nice trail to walk now. So I hope everybody gets out and gets a chance to use it. So
I would point out to the board on page 43 of your current there is an area where we list the trails. We basically have 30 miles of trails. We have walking and jogging trails of 16 miles. We have 4 miles of bike trails, and we have 10 miles of equestrian trails. So Casey went out and we kind of inventoried that and got an idea. The plan, our ultimate plan is 50-something miles, which will be a lot of miles, but that's the ultimate plan. So I'll just point that out.
And Don, we do have that book that Kat created 2 years ago that has a list of all the trails.
That, yes.
And so that would be something, it's glossy, it's really
so nice.
sharp.
That's a nice little book.
Yeah, so that's something that we could use to at least maybe even hand out.
Well,
at that-
it's out at all the motels
Yeah.
as well as any tourist areas at the library, city hall.
Chamber?
We have them all over the place.
Okay.
But Jim,
So-
if you need some, we could probably get a box for you to take to their your meeting, if that's.
Yeah, it'd be great to hand them out, but they were also interested in what condition they
Yeah.
are, and what we're looking at as far as maintenance and budget and time and people.
Yeah.
So on, so before they go out and do new, make sure old is where it needs to be.
Hey, Don, one other thing that hasn't been discussed at the trail meeting, and it's something that you had brought up before, is that there had been a group, especially people that live along the North Valley Road that goes like from basically College Street out to Ewing Young School, and that is all in the 29J district as well. And there had been talk about a path in that area that, or there was a group that was trying to raise funding to do that, if I remember correctly, but I don't think the trail committee's at all aware of that. So if you could refresh us on that and tell me if that is something that, there's other people interested in doing. That'd be, as I remember, it was like going to be a multi-use path that could be used as a safe route to schools for the people out there, but also to get some of those bicycles off of that narrow road.
You're correct. The neighbors came to us and the comment was they would have to dedicate the easement, which they felt that could be done, but we also have to involve the county. That means the county must work with us and the neighbors in doing that. Because part of it will go on the county right away, but there are areas along there that the county right away is not sufficient. And I pointed those out, and the gentleman said that he would get with the property owners and make sure that they were willing to do it.
All
So that's where we're at. But you're right about that. And I'll get that information out.
I'd like to have that information too, because my wife's best friend was killed on her bike on that road. That's a
Yeah.
horrible road.
It's
And
a
so-
bad road.
And so it'd be great if we could get something along there to make it safe.
It's
And then I said that was it, but then I guess I need to keep reminding, I'm the squeaky wheel here, that I know that Don and Casey are working with the county on the old Newburgh landfill that's been closed for 35, 36 years right now as a potential for trails around there, especially now that we can get from Ewing Young out through the new development that the Wilcutts put in and walk under the bypass and up Water Road to that property. It's 38 acres. I'd love to see us use that as the paddle launch if we're not able to acquire the Edwards property, as well as, it's a great area for trails there too. So
I agree with that, Bart, and we brought it up to the planning director from Yamhill County. Last time we met with them, John Bridges, our attorney, Casey and I met with the county about, as you well know, we have a road going into Ewing Young that involves the winery, and we're working on that. And at the same time, I brought up about the including in the lease agreement, as we discussed at a prior board meeting, about including the landfill as a lease.
Great.
So we're asking for 99 years on that. And
Right.
it doesn't really matter. It could be for 25, provided that they say that the lease would go on eternity after that, unless one party objected or vice versa, but I don't
Okay.
see that.
Well, I'll just keep reminding you guys because I
I,
appreciate the work you do, and I just want to make sure it's part of the public record and it stays fresh in our minds. So thank you.
For the cultural center, I will say that they did, they just received a $500,000 grant to help finish, or to finish the building. And that is raised them, I think, to 4.8 million of the 5 million that they're trying to raise in order to do the theater and finish up the rest of that space up there. So that was really good news. Hopefully they'll get the last bit of it soon and they can get moving on that. Because I think there's a lot of excitement for some theater space. Alrighty, anything else? On to our next topic. All right, I guess it's you, Casey, updates on projects.
Yeah, I guess I'll start with the cultural center. Sean and I and Jennifer Marsachek from Scott Edwards Architecture met about 2 weeks ago. And Sean wants to kind of get that project started, the upper floor, the theater, and the spiral staircase and all that. He said he's got, and by the time this all gets going, he'll have enough to complete that. And so that's what his hope is. So they're gonna try and start on that project sometime in January. So it's got a lot of things that they got to do before anything goes out for bid or anything. So that's where that's at. Sandra Estate, I think I mentioned that the Dundee City Council approved the master plan, and then we met, Dawn and Kat and I and the architects met to talk about what we do now, how to go forward, because Rob Dakin is going to retire at the end of December. And so we really don't want to get going on something and have the city manager change on us in the middle of it. So we're gonna start with looking for grants. You know, we have to start with the water feature, of course, but we also have all the upgrades to the infrastructure, the street improvements, there's a lot of requirements before anything in the park actually gets done. So we need to make sure that we spend our money wisely and try and match as much as we can with grants.
Sorry, Casey, is the city of Dundee putting any money into this?
He mentioned it. There are tourism and through the hotel tax, urban renewal funds. So there are some funds going to be committed by the city, but you know, when you change managers, that's when things change. So I just kind of be wary of that. So at least we're moving forward, and that's good. Crabtree Park, we're still trying to mitigate the ODF and W's requiring a culvert be put in, and I think we've had enough meetings with the fish biologist and Greg Apke, who's the director for the fish passage. I think we're getting them to the point where they understand what we're trying to accomplish without tearing up everyone's property, and trying to make it better, not better for the fish, but also better for the park, because there's a real erosion problem happening down there that we need to kind of fix at the same time. It will be expensive, and the goal is to, help let the county pay for some, the gun club pay for some, we pay for some. There are some grants available that we might go after. Paige has done the surveying up there, and I think I don't know if the easement's done yet. That kind of started the whole thing, was the culvert. The county denied ownership, and so then we found out there's no easement, no access for the county or the gun club or us, and that kind of started the whole process. What else? Aquatic and Fitness Center, they've ordered the pumps, and because of this supply chain thing, they won't be in their hands until the first week of January. And so they're going to guess by the third week of January, they'll be able to start that project and complete. It's about $80,000 that they have to retrofit the aquatic center to make the system work the way it was intended. Thankfully, I kind of backed out of that, and I said that I don't feel that we're responsible, and it is on the engineers. And everyone talked about this for a long time. Jim knows about all this, that it doesn't work as it was intended to work. So having it commissioned, especially the HVAC system, that was probably the smartest thing the district did. Being a new, I guess we're the guinea pig type thing on this whole thing. But it's doing okay. Development.
Casey, let me interrupt a second. So I would assume that when these units get online, that our energy costs are going to go down.
Well, they were never down. Let's put
I understand, but it never worked right either.
Nope, it did not.
So that's my assumption, that we see those energy costs go down, because that's a big cost.
I would hope so, because it's very scary when you start seeing $25,000 electrical bills for one building.
Right.
For 1 month.
Right.
So when you build a facility that big, you kind of expect, I certainly wouldn't expect that high of a bill, but it's a pool. It's unique in its own way.
The numbers that were shared are not the numbers that are coming up, but since those units aren't working on the roof correctly,
Right.
that has a lot to do with why these numbers are so high.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping, as the engineers explained to us, those numbers come down once those units are working. So
Is there any consideration for photovoltaic panels?
we have those up there.
There are already some, and it's still.
Yeah.
The whole roof is solar panels.
Yeah, the top roof are full of solar panels.
Yeah, there's a problem.
The solar's only gonna get you so far. I mean, heating that space, dehumidifying, that's a big cost. So. Good, I'm glad to see they're doing that. Thanks.
Paul Agrimis, they did some geotechnical work down there. They've done wetlands delineation. They're working today. They were working on the cultural assessment. They had some archaeologists down there digging holes and checking for artifacts and that kind of thing. I don't know how that went. But, and then we've been working with Matt Hasty and John in the county, talking about the campground and about trails and making sure that they get a master plan with everything that we want to do included in it. It's still gonna be a lot of work just to get permission to do what we want to do down there, but they seem to think it's doable. And yeah, it's another one of those farmland issues, which becomes problematic and for certain types of uses. So we're trying to get it designated to parks and open space for the simple fact that we can build a campground there. And
Is it EF 40 now, Casey?
yes, it's EF 40 now. And we've talked to, they're going out there December to dig the test pits for the septic system that has to go in and do kind of some preliminary cost analysis on doing that versus putting tanks in or that type of stuff. It requires a lot of land. It's I think Paul said it was like 22,000 square feet of drainage, and then it has to be doubled because they want to know that if it fails that there's room to put another one in. They've done they've got all the surveying done. I've talked to the Schneider pumps about, wells and what type of well we would have to expect down there, because they've drilled some wells on Dog Ridge Road, and he more or less would know what to expect in that area. What else?
Well, Casey, back in the day, and Don, you may remember this too, is they drilled some test wells because they were going to use
The city
that
did.
lower part to help
Yeah.
the city of Newburgh with their water, and it didn't work out.
No, they drilled it over by Willamette Farms and they found arsenic. But there's filters, you can filter a lot of that stuff out. It's expensive, but so is putting a $1 million water line in from the city that they're not gonna want to do.
And then buying water from the city.
Yeah, and then you buy water from the city, so you kind of get caught both ways on that. So that's where that's at. What else? The golf course is doing well. Everything's kind of wrapping up, so we're trying to clean up leaves now and do some repairs that need to be done. And that's pretty much it on the projects. And then this week my wife tested positive for COVID, so that's why I'm not sitting with all of you today. I tested negative last night, so it's just a fun thing to do. I think that's about it for now.
Thank you, Casey. Does anybody have questions for Casey?
Just the one thing on the cultural center is that phase that they're going to put in the next phase is just going to be for the auditorium, the green room, the movement studios, the toilets. They're not going to go all the way to the west and do those classrooms over there, is my understanding.
No, they're not. They don't have enough money for that. And
Right.
it's a movement studio, and the theater is what kind of they're after, and the staircase. Yeah. Those are the primary things that they're
It would be nice to complete the whole thing and have it behind us.
Yep, well, you
Only money.
got your checkbook out, Jim.
Yeah.
You could donate some money to them.
Thank you, Casey. Pickleball Advisory Committee.
So the committee has met 3 times this past month. I went to the last 2 of them. They are pretty passionate about it. They are enthusiastically exploring their options for a location. They've got a lot of plans for networking and getting the word out and rallying community support. I think that's the 2 things that they're emphasizing right now is just making sure that they've talked to every contact they can possibly talk to and exploring options for location.
I don't think so. They are working on a survey, trying to get a survey out, like a feasibility study. They have big goals, which is great, but like Gil mentioned, the location, it's gonna be location, 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 and then parking. So it sounds, they do, enthusiastic is a great word, and there were 8 of us at Monday's meeting, which was the first one that I attended, and they're just doing a lot of outreach in our community, which is exciting. I think they mentioned 24 courts maybe, and covered facility with bathrooms, and it sounds really neat. We talked briefly about it'll be wonderful for our community. It's multi-generational. We talked a little bit about the tournament that we had. We've actually had 2 tournaments at Jaquith last year, and we made some money off of that. And then we took that money and I gave it to our recreation coordinator. And so we've offered some classes for adults and also for some youth in our community to try to get that started as well. So they're meeting every 2 weeks. Which is great, and they're trying to just get a lot of support from. You'll see them at Rotary, and but again doing some outreach.
Have they talked to the couple that has a property that's above Shad Park?
We did talk about that. So Brian Bellairs, I believe is his name. I don't think so. We talked about Brian going to the city, and he wants to be within the urban growth boundary. I think that's the first step for him. That might be a ways out. They were very interested in moving quickly. Didn't you feel that, Gail? I felt like there was
a time like they said they wanted it. They set in motion next fall. Is that what they said?
Yeah.
They wanted the start date of next fall.
Start like construction?
Yeah.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah.
You can
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah. So it was fun, but they're very active. And Hunter, I don't know if you know Hunter Wiley, he might be on this call, I'm not sure, but he's very organized and very passionate. And so it's exciting. It's gonna be fun to be a part of that.
So there's something in the packet about property at the golf course.
Correct.
They met
That's
with
one of
Dawn.
the sites
Yeah.
that they mentioned. I told them it might fit, it might not. We still have not determined that. It may not be a bad location. They're talking about 2 buildings, 12 courts in each building. What I recommended and what I would probably recommend today, I'm not saying this is definite, so please understand that, but probably build the 12 with the idea to build the additional 12. Go with the 12, see how it goes, and then if the 12 additional is needed, build it. What they're proposing makes sense. As the board is aware, locally, I've talked with the hotels, and the tourist area. Their slowest time is from December, January, February, March, April is by far their slowest time. That's when we would take this pickleball and run tournaments and do those type things. with that many thousands, you're talking about at times, thousands of people would be there. It's growing. There's no other facility being planned or currently built in the state of Oregon that I'm aware of. They're not aware of any either. There may be some on the East Coast, I don't know. We'll continuously trying to find that. We may be trailblazers in this because this is a new sport, but I've learned over the years, good things happen when you turn good people loose and you listen to them. And I told them there was some difficulty with this traffic, those type things. They're well aware of that. They said they would work on all that. So we're trying to make sure we don't paint a rosy road because, as the board knows, there's never that. There's always some opposition or pushback, but it's possible. And according to our master plan, we'll need eventually 10 courts by 2045. We would need at least 10. This is more than what we would need. Therefore, it would fall under special services. Julie and I talked about that, but that's not necessarily bad either. But sustainability, how do we pay for it? And I discussed that with the group. I told them sustainability was a big issue there. How are we going to long-term pay for that? They had thought about that and actually came up with a pretty good suggestion. And the suggestion was like charge an hourly fee for the courts. And that makes sense and would bring in a good amount of money, and it may be feasible, but the feasibility study will address all that. So that's where we left it.
You know, I read through the packet and there's quite a bit of information on that. I was just looking at the golf course area out there. The infrastructure on that would be pretty intense. Right, but so I don't know if we need to think outside the box. In places we may have facilities now and move facilities we have now to move them in and then move them to a better facility. I don't know if they've looked at that. That's outside the box.
Well,
But I'm just-
I did talk to them about that. In other words, no decision has been made.
Sure.
They just recommended certain things. If we move it to that area, I informed them of groups that would probably oppose it. And we would need to meet with them early on to make sure they were aware of what we were proposing and not bring it up or ignore the groups that I'm aware of. And we would do that. So that's where we're at right now.
I really like the area over by Rennie, where Rennie Junior High used to be. That's school district property over there. That's an expansive, field. There are tennis courts, old, kind of dilapidated, courts over there.
But the school district will not give us, I've already checked on all
Yeah.
that. They're going to build a middle school there. So I think I agree with you on the location,
Yeah.
but you needn't to be there. Dead horse.
Yeah.
Because we wanted the old Rennie School. Some of you may not have been on the board. Jim, you remember that. We didn't get it. We wound up with Central, which is what we didn't want. But we got it and we said, how do we take this problem in the community? All the government agencies met as a unit and they said, guess what, Park and Rec, you get it. And we don't know what to do with it, how to do it. And I think it's come out pretty decent.
I don't mean to belabor this, but Mark brought up a point, and I don't know how realistic this would be or whether it would work, is underneath the bypass. That's just something that,
Okay, I discussed that. I realized when that was brought up, I went to ODOT. I discussed that. There is some issues with that. The board may not be aware, but there is what's called a 4F. And 4F means that when you build a park or a recreational facility, ODOT cannot come in at a later date and basically take that. And as you well know, they're going to build an expansion part of that. So their concerns would be, are we going to interfere with the building of that future lane that goes towards the river? And I met with them and we discussed all that. So we'll have more discussion. It's not that they said no, but I'm also kind of figuring out everything, parking, all of those issues. So
Hunter said with the bypass that the noise was a deal breaker.
really,
it could be, you could be right.
because you're underneath it.
Yeah, Hunter said that it was 91 decibels under the
Oh, was it?
freeway when the trucks were going overhead.
What about the, Bart also brought up the old, what do you call it, landfill?
The landfill
Landfill.
has an area, but it may not be large enough because of the gas underneath it. It may be built difficult to build anything on it for quite some time.
Look at like heat with gas stuff.
Yeah. That would
You know,
work. But we're looking at a lot of sites and we'll continue to look at it.
I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
Well, a couple of thoughts. I mean, we do have a footprint for the third nine. We haven't
Correct.
built the third nine yet, so I mean, I'm sure there's some wiggle. But, you know, if we get to the point of, you know, a serious discussion about, you know, the golf course and this going together, you know, at that point is the sort of self-appointed godfather of the golf course. I would like to be involved in some of those meetings. You threw out the date 2045. Now, if I did the math right, I'll be 89. I don't tend to be on this board still then. You'll be 102. You'll probably still be the superintendent. If we can get something done before then, that would be good.
I think that the real key is sustainability and making sure as we do this and go through that it is sustainable for the future, because our grandkids and our kids will be here. We just need to kind of look to the future and make sure that we do things that benefit everyone. And that's what we tried to do over the years.
Any more questions about pickleball? Right.
Hey, I'd just like to throw out that, you know, there's there might be a potential to, if we did cite the pickleball courts where the golf course is, that could make the potential for a clubhouse more sustainable. If you have golfers and pickleballers out there, I think a clubhouse kind of adds to the golf course, kind of helps bring it in, but I know some of those actually struggle to be financially profitable, and you know, having additional customer base out there might help that.
Good point. Thank you, Bart. All right, on to the next, the master plan update.
I put in the board packet a copy. We'll be going over that. Just read it. If you have questions, call me. This is our current master plan. This is the document. When we're through with this, it'll be twice this. We've done a lot of work and it's gonna be bigger, even bigger than what it is now. And we just keep growing, we keep adding projects and keep doing. So, yeah, it is what it is. But remember also, when we passed our SDCs, we agreed that in 5 years, we're going to revisit that. And we've got to be prepared for it. So
Revisit the master plan or revisit?
that's correct. The master plan will be important in the update, what we do with that. So that'll be important. I think that's 25. I can't remember, 24, 25.
And what is this master plan update going to do? Just, is it going to allow for us to do more of this development, or is it what we've already done?
Well, if you look, it has an inventory. What the master plan does is define the type parks that we have. It breaks it down into 2 areas. It's unincorporated area and incorporated area. There are standards that are set by national organizations, NRPA, that says what we should have and what is recommended. What we tried to do is put the inventory there. We've also not only put our inventory, but we've also put other inventories. That is like school grounds, any other type inventory in the community that's recreational, it's open to the public at some point of time. We put that in there, but we've separated it out. The district is responsible, but I've also felt that most people don't know this in the community, but we built all the school playgrounds. There's not an elementary school or school that we haven't built the playground or been involved. When I say we, most of the times with other projects, we don't normally go out there by ourselves. We try to involve the community, and PTAs have been very supportive, very funding. And I think it's the best way to go about something, because if the community's involved, it has a way of getting done. So if you involve the community and do that, then it's a lot more successful. So we work very hard to involve everyone. And the master plan reflects all that and says what we have done, not done. It's got the feasibility studies in it. It's got the plans. As you well know, we have plans for the Riley that the committee did. It's in there. We have a plan for Ewing Young. It's in there. All of those. And as we bring property in and we plan it out, it goes in here. So
Also, back in the day when I was doing the grants here, we needed to have that master plan for the state and for other entities to be able to get the grants. If we didn't have a master plan, you may not get the grants. So that was the other thing. And when Dawn talked about the playgrounds, the park district, a lot of times fronted the money to get the playground equipment. And some of it we paid for totally. Most of them we did not, though. What happened is the PTOs paid back the money that we put in over the years. But we instituted so they could get it for the kids at that time.
the high school stadium, we built all the grandstands. We fronted the money, some $400-something thousand. We had a group of citizens come to the board. They asked you for the money. They went to the school board. School board said no. They come to you. And the only thing I said to the board at that time, which Don was a member, was, how do we feel when the public tells us no? Now it's reversed. The public's coming to you. They're asking you to trust them. I said, but you have to build it with the idea that they'll never give you a penny back. We got every penny back. We built that stadium. It was there for the citizens, and we got every cent back, all 400,000. Matter of fact, Paula Reddish wrote me a check that was 55
I
or
remember that.
59,000. And she says, I don't want to hear it anymore. Here's the check. So they wrote me a check for the remainder, and that was it. So, but I thought that was something the board, basically, legally, we could do that because that's a recreational facility, and as Julie, we probably use that facility as much as the high school does.
We do, yeah.
And it's been a great community addition. And as this board is aware, we contributed to the turf. 100-some thousand on that. So, but that's what the master plan allows us to do.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
If Paul Harvey were here, there's more to
That's
it. On.
That's right.
I would like to correct the record. I doodled incorrectly. In 2045, I'll only be 87, and Dawn will have freshly turned 100.
Thank you for doing that.
Yes.
I planned for my 100th birthday.
Alrighty. Does anybody have questions for Dawn on the master plan? Hearing none, we'll move on. Financial report? Questions?
I will note that is supposed to come off of the template of the board meeting because we always already
Because we've
approved
already
the financial.
approved
and the-
You've already,
Yes,
the
that-
financial report is just questions.
If you have questions, you should ask.
Before the approval, yeah.
I'll just take that off and put superintendent's report.
Alright.
I probably
Take that off
should
the
have.
template.
All right.
So I guess we're ready for the superintendent's report.
The SUPS report for the board, as the board is aware, Dundee will get a new elementary school. The school district has bought the property. Where they're moving from, we have our ball fields on that property and stuff. And I told well, I was going to talk to the superintendent, but I can't now. But I talked with Larry Hampton, who's the facility person there. And I told him we might be interested in the Dundee Elementary School. I would like for us to begin to discuss purchasing that. I see a museum going in there, an agricultural museum, a wine museum. I see space for a 24-hour daycare facility 7 days a week that is not available anywhere. I think we could pull that off. I see the kitchen, which is a full-fledged kitchen currently. All our senior meals and everything comes out of Salem, is shipped here. We could prepare everything there and do all that in-house and get grant money and federal money to do all that. And we could provide fresher, better quality food. There is probably space left over. There's nothing that says that we can't lease that space out to other groups, which I think may be the case. But anyway, I've just looked at that whole facility and thought about it. As the board is aware, with the Sanders estate, we were looking at building a large facility over there, which involved a kitchen. And we would not have to do that there because we could include it in the grade school because it's right across the street. And I want to sit down and talk with Jan and have Jan part of this as well. And we'll kind of go from there, but I wanted to throw that out and give the board an idea of what we were thinking and where we were going to go and how we would pay for that.
Well, we passed that here. I've already authorized Dawn to bid citing inflation. I've authorized them to bid up to $2 for the Dundee school building. We paid $1 for Central. So it's already been paid for by the taxpayers. So.
My assumption over that $2 is that the school district's going to look at, okay, we bought this property, let's throw a number out for 5 million. We'd like to get our $5 million back and sell the building for that. Is that kind of where they're coming from?
Well, I think they would like that. What I would probably propose off the top of my head is that we give them a minimum of 50% of our SDCs from Dundee to help pay if there is a cost. I don't know if there is a cost. But again, we haven't really sat down. We haven't talked with anybody. I just see opportunities. And when opportunities come along and you don't take advantage of them, they go by you. And the question is, can we work it out to where it is sustainable? We can afford to do it within our current budget. And I think we can. But again, putting it down on paper, looking at everything, weighing everything out, will take some time. I asked Larry the time frame for the school. It's 3 years. So it's not going to be something being done overnight. They're not moving out of that for 3 years. So we've got some time to begin to look at that. And if it was tomorrow or the end of this year, I'd say, forget it. We don't have time. But with that time frame, we have plenty of time to look at it and discuss.
Don, is our property, I'm trying to recall, is it through the middle of the tennis court? From the tennis court up is ours, and then from tennis court down is the school district, or is it through the middle of the shelter? Because I know it takes half those ball fields, at least. And the parking lot is the parking lot.
I believe our property is from the tennis courts back up to City Hall.
Right.
And from the tennis courts back, it was the school district. Now, they signed an agreement, and that agreement was in perpetuity, which is a legal term, which means forever. And they agreed to that. And we could hold them to that. But in all fairness, if they're building a new grade school, they would have property, which they do have. And part of that will be a park. I don't think the city of Dundee wants that property developed, to the best of my knowledge. I was told they didn't, but I don't know that factually. But we'll sit down with the city and talk to the city council and bring them on board as well. So that's something to look forward to. The other thing is the Newburgh Dundee bypass trail. I put in your board packet this, which is ODOT put it out talking about the Dundee Newburgh bypass trail. And also I put in your packet the Project Newburgh Dundee bypass trail phase 1, which was a request from the city for their matching funds, which we're requesting that they match $400,000. And we met with the mayor, the city manager, and But they originally, before we applied for this grant, we had met with them and they said that they would strongly consider that. And they'd do whatever they could. Since ARPA funds have come in, they can do it. So we've requested the funds. Matter of fact, they said, do this. So we're following up and those funds will probably come. So that's on the bypass trail that we're working on now. The other is today I talked with Andrew Walker from ODOT. As you well know, they're going to put in the next phase of the bypass, they're going to put a pedestrian bridge over. We showed them our plans for our trails. They agreed with that and they moved they're moving where they originally wanted to put it, they're moving a little north. We feel it would be better and fit in with the trail system and they've agreed. They've checked with their consultants and their consultants kind of agree with us. And so they're going to do that. The other thing is we talked about Fernwood Road. As the board is aware, they were going to build Fernwood Road over the bypass. The difficulty with that is the golf operations would have been terrible. ODOT is responsible for some of that and they didn't want to go there. So the last that I heard, they're building the bypass over the Fernwood Road and going to leave it alone. Fernwood Road is not going to change. Now in doing that, they have to make some adjustments and they're sending me the drawings and they're asking me to sign that I agree with that. I told him I would not do that unless I had a map, which was part of the agreement. And then I'll see how that affects the golf course. And then I will sign it. When I sign that agreement, I will give you copies. Before I sign it, I will send out copies and give you a day or two to respond. So I'll give you an idea about how I'm going to handle that. They need to move on this. And he asked me if I would do that. And I told him we were meeting tonight and that I would talk to you about it. So I want to give you a heads up. So I'll have Kat send that out when I get that, the information. And then we will go out to the site itself and they put flags down for us so that we understand the slope, the whole works. And they're really working extremely well with us. And my hat's off to ODOT. In return, with this brochure, they talked about the Dundee bypass trail. And if you notice, they're talking about connecting Newburgh and Dundee with this. So when we submitted this deal, we were up against Metro, Salem, Bend. There was a lot of things. And to be honest, I didn't think we were going to go anywhere. I was shocked when we got the funding. When I say shocked, I was happily surprised, but we got the funding and it would appear they want to finish this project. So we're in the right place at the right time with the right project, shovel ready. So that makes it just perfect. And that's going to bring in a couple of $1 million that our taxpayers don't have to foot the bill. And it'll be here forever. So that's good news.
So when do you think that you'll have that, map that you'll be sending out to, so that we're, if we only have a day or so to respond, I think it'd be good to.
Yeah, he told me a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Knowing ODOT, when they tell me a couple of weeks, It can stretch into months. It's not uncommon, but I will make sure that I have Kat send all that to you before I sign it.
Okay.
And give you time to respond. And then I'll sign that and send it back. When I sign it and send it back, I'll make it part of this packet. So you're aware.
Thank you.
Yeah, I will say they're being much more cooperative now, it seems, than they were 10, 15 years ago. You know, some of us, me, Jim and staff, and we've kind of been there, done this with ODOT and the golf course. So we changed the plans the second time, like 3 different times based on that. Oh, we need to do this. Oh, we may need this. So I appreciate that they're being more cooperative. That doesn't mean I trust them any further I can throw. And so, yeah, I would definitely want to see this before I would be comfortable authorizing superintendent to sign.
Before I send it to you, I'll run it by our attorney. Make sure there's no hidden legal words in there that sometimes these agreements or what you sign, there's certain words, may, shall, will. I'll run it by him to make sure, and I'll negotiate that out before I ever send it to you.
2 weeks from now is the middle of December. Most state agencies don't do a thing. Middle of December. So I seriously doubt we see anything back first year.
That would be my guess. That's what I was thinking, but I wanted to give you a heads up on it. That I was requested to sign that document. I told him my process and how I would do it. So I'm informing you, that's what I told him over the phone. So we'll go from there.
Anything else, Tom? Right, staff reports? Stuart?
Let's see, we have Kellen, can we unmute Kellen? I believe he's on the call. Maybe he could go first. I don't think he spoke at the last meeting.
Oh, he did.
did?
We almost overlooked him, but he reminded us he was.
I know,
here, so
before I came in,
felt bad.
I thought, oh, I want to make sure that I get to him. So Richard, can you unmute him so he can speak?
I don't see him on here.
I don't
Oh, you don't
see
see him?
him on there.
Okay, maybe he
Yeah.
was, but maybe he left. Let's see. Well, actually, first, I don't know if this was talked about at the last meeting, but I wanted to acknowledge the aquatic center staff. We had a code red there in October. Did they talk about? That wasn't the last meeting.
It was in the board package.
Yes, yeah. And so I wanted to acknowledge Tara, Wendy, and their staff, and particularly a lifeguard, the lifeguard team, Lily in particular. But we had a gentleman that had gone down the slide in the deep tank, and he, went under, and the staff did a great job. It was a kind of a situation where they responded quickly, and it was a successful rescue. And I just wanted to acknowledge them. TVFNR did arrive on scene after a period of time, and they have mentioned that they would like to celebrate and give an award to the CPRD staff for that save. And so I thought that was important. And Tara and Wendy, it's one of those where, gosh, you work so hard training your staff, and that, one time when, they have to step up to the plate, they really did. And the gentleman that actually had the incident, he was a big guy, and he was saved by this gal that was maybe 5 foot tall, and she went down 5 times to get him and brought him up by herself. It was incredible, and she had help also, but they did a great job. I want to make sure that everybody was aware of that, and that we acknowledge them. And in a time where it's hard to get staff, just the training that Tara and Wendy are doing is just incredible. And, I wanted to make sure that everyone knew about that. Of course, Jim knows that Did you have many code reds? Or,
We've had some issues here.
yeah. But anyway, they really stepped up to the plate, so I wanted to mention that. The aquatic center is busy. We have swim teams in there now. We've had tournaments. We've had the Newburgh High School swim teams, and I think water polo's had a couple tournaments. We have the George Fox football team. They're using the facility on Sunday evenings for recovery. They're in the pool swimming, which is nice. We have middle school polo athletes using the pool on Sunday nights as well. George Fox is using the aquatic, Jim McMaster comp pool. So that's exciting. Swim lessons are in full force. Let's see, what else? Care is up and running. We've been able to open up care at all of our elementary schools. And so that's nice. It's been a long time coming. We have some, over Christmas vacation, we're gonna have some openings for 2 weeks for those kids to have some place to go. So that's kind of nice too. Let's see, we finished our fall sports season and we had football, flag football, volleyball, and a huge soccer program this year. So we're done with that. We opened up basketball. They started practice on Monday. Senior Center, everything's going pretty well. Jim, you can probably attest to that. Meals on Wheels has been successful and they're very busy.
Did they have bingo back then?
No,
Yes.
I think the quilters have just,
I kind of know
I
a
know about-
senior that's interested in bingo.
really?
Yeah, they
Mark
have-
Martin? Is that
that's
Mark Martin?
Yeah, it's Mark
But of course, the pool is back in the building and that's rather nice.
Yeah, they have scrapbooking going, they have dominoes, some mahjong. Yeah, some
Quilters.
Quilters.
Yeah.
And, an art group, and, but yeah, no bingo.
Yeah. Okay.
Your gentleman here did such a fantastic job fixing that bingo board. It was a technological triumph, and then COVID hit, and that was the end of bingo.
Yeah, they're all going to the casino now.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, the golf course has been busy. This, they also have done a great job. They've been very busy just for the past 24 months, basically. And so it's a little slower, but we're able to kind of get things done that need to get done. And they've been pretty successful in finding staff to help out there at the golf course as well. So I think that's about it.
Does anybody have questions for Julie?
I do have to mention that I did get a phone call from the aquatic center asking me if I wanted to recertify as my lifeguard. And I told them, I
We
said,
must be desperate.
I said, I think I'm hanging up my suit now after 500 years of being a lifeguard.
I would remind the board on the code red that we had that all taken. We went over it, we invited TBF and all and the experts and we said, what can we do better so the next time it hits? Fortunately, I've only had one drowning in my career. I hope I never have another because I will never forget that mother scream. It's not something you wish or to be part of. So I was very grateful when that code read that we were successful.
And we have been in contact with that gentleman and he has said that he would like to be on site when we receive the award from TVFNR. And he was just so thankful, that they did a great job. So
Can you let us know when that's gonna happen?
I would love to,
Okay.
absolutely.
It is concerning a little bit though that, it's my understanding, it always has been, but it's worse now in getting staff to be able to supervise the swimmers in the pool. It is concerning.
Yeah.
And I can't say it's wages, I'm not sure what, but the high school kids don't want to work.
Yeah.
And so they're running out of employees, so we just gotta make sure that doesn't impact safety we need to make sure that we have employees out there. So.
Well, it's very difficult too, because a lot of our lifeguards are college students and they go home for a break. Or they're, gone during the summer months. And so it takes a lot of, and I just think Tara and Wendy do a great job training, those kids, because it's a constant, you have to constantly be on top of that. And I think they do a really, really good job when, push comes to shove, boy, they really put a lot of time and effort into that. We have a lifeguard training class that's gonna be coming up. I think it starts next week, so they're hoping they can get a lot of applicants for the lifeguard positions. But you're right, especially with COVID, it's just been extremely difficult. So
But on a positive note, did I see something online where the high school water polo team finally got rid of that deadbeat coach? She's been around forever.
I heard
They
rumor
found out
about
that
that.
guy left. I don't know who it was.
I'd also like to say, I think it's the first time that Newburgh doing.
Have they ever had another water polo
Finals. I
coach?
mean, no, they had the state tournament. They missed Jim this year, I think.
It's okay, it's time to move on. I got a good staff that follow me up, so they'll do it.
There you go. Right, Kayla, do you have anything?
Nothing new. Everything seems to be going pretty well right now.
Yeah, you do.
There was talk of what?
Yeah, you do, Kayla. Look at those signs out there.
That's
Oh, the
Kayla.
signs.
Come on.
Yes, we did. Thank you for reminding me, Casey. We did finally get those, all our welcome signs printed, and they should be up at various locations.
Yeah, that's great.
I saw one.
Thank
They had it
you.
at the cultural center. It looks really nice. Very good job.
That's
Kayla.
good. But yeah,
Thank
other than that, nothing really new, but I am working with Tara and Wendy, trying to get some word out about hiring more lifeguards. So we're trying to see if we can figure that problem out. So trying to reach more people.
I still want to see us to get Heidi her placard. you know.
Yeah, don't jinx me. Don't.
I'll put that in the minutes.
That in the budget. We shouldn't have to follow supplemental budget for that.
Heidi, do you have anything?
No, just trying to make sure, well, I am ensuring that all our financial obligations are being met in a timely manner.
Thank you.
And also the personnel meeting.
Okay, yes. So the SDAO provided a 2022 handbook template that's it was roughly 120 some pages. So it went page by page from that template with what we had merged, what actually applied to us based upon our size. Dawn and I were able to go over it today. And now we send it off to their attorneys that review it for free, nicely done, and then should have that all finalized in place after they review it. So we got it down to, I think, about 74 pages, once it was all said and done, so.
Has Kellen come back on?
I don't see him.
No,
Am I missing anyone?
Is Holly Rogers going to come talk to us about the audit at some point when it's done?
Oh, I can reach on that too. So the school districts have a very hard deadline date for when their audits must be completed. So they are priority with all audit firms right now. So just to be on the safe side, they went ahead and submitted an extension on our behalf, even though they have everything there that they need. So once all the school districts are filed, then we're next on the plate. But yes, they have been asked to come speak, and they said yes, that they will. So
Yes, just given what we've gone through last, I mean, when they come, it's, in all honesty, it's usually fairly boring. But given everything that we have gone through in the last couple of years with finance and stuff, I think it's imperative that they actually show up.
Yeah.
And so we have a chance to ask some questions.
yeah. So, and they're aware of that, and they're very willing to. So.
And it's a very typical thing for the auditor to come and present to us.
Well, you
So,
used to never. Used to probably not necessary, but we don't see them all
Yeah.
the time anymore, so.
it'll be by Zoom anyway. We're into that age.
Is there anybody else we've missed?
I just have one question. I keep meaning to ask Kellen, and I keep forgetting one about. I thought Casey probably knows the answer to this. I thought were we gonna flip over the half of the golf court carts? We still got the old red ones out there.
Yeah.
Red number ones.
We're in a little quandary there because Kellen ordered those back in May,
That's what I thought.
and they keep saying it started out July, then it was August, then it was September, then it was October, then it was November. Now it's January. There still no guarantees that they're gonna be there in January. But yes, they have been ordered. By the time we flip those ones over, there'll be time to flip the next ones over as well.
Right. The gold ones will be ready.
You're in the Long Beach Harbor right now.
Right.
They are.
One of the-
Well, we get a volunteer crew to drive them up I-5.
That would be a little, that'd be fun. All right, thank you all. There's the citizen comments.
It's in your packet.
Yeah, anybody have comments on the citizen comments? No?
I move we adjourn.
Alrighty, thank you. It is now 7:35 and it's when you're adjourned.
Not require a second. You do have to vote.
So all in favor of adjourning?
All right.
Hi,
Aye.
see you next time.
All right, thank you, Bart. We'll see you later. Meeting's adjourned.
Still off on the.
Jim, Tom Hammer, good to meet you.
Hi, pleasure to meet you, Tom.
Yeah, I got the relay.